top to bottom, across the different pages. We knew this was a controversial jury decision in the NFL antitrust lawsuit, Sunday Ticket. And the allegations, the NFL fixed the prices because they let Fox and CBS in on the negotiations. And the end result is they got sued, an antitrust violation. The jury found the NFL guilty. Thursday night, the judge met with the lawyers as the NFL formally appealed the decision of the jury. He met with them, and the judge made the comment on Thursday night, the jury did not follow my instructions about how to come up with the monetary damages. I gave them a model that they needed to consider to determine the dollar damages. They considered something totally different. And the end result was $4.7 billion in damages. And because it was an antitrust violation, it was tripled, $14.9 billion total.
Jeez.
So on Thursday, the judge took in all the paperwork. Yes, NFL has now formally appealed the decision. On Friday night, out of the clear blue sky, I get a text, a bulletin. I was in West Virginia, and the text says the judge has overturned the entire case, has thrown it out of court because the jury made all the wrong decisions as it relates to the financial penalties. So now, again, I cut law school the day they taught it at university. I went drinking uptown. I know you didn't. So when he throws this case out of court and overturns the jury's verdict, does it automatically go back to retrial? Or do the injured fans and businesses that file the suit have to file? Or can he just set aside the financial award and come up with his own financial terms? So where does it go next?
I'm like, again, this is way above my pay grade. But
so you cut class too,
yeah,
you liar.
So my guess is that, there's two parts to it. They're going to say guilty or not guilty.
They were guilty of collusion.
Okay, so that is handled. Then the second part is what should be the compensation? And it seems like the judge should be more involved in that, because if you just let 12 people in a room to decide how much compensation, like you said, they ignored the model. And this is what makes the antitrust so screwed up, because now they could just say, we don't like the NFL, a bunch of money grubbers. We're going to stick them as much as we want to, rather than doing something that's rational and fair and balanced.
So we don't quite know what's the next step. Do the citizens who are part of the class action suit refile and take it to the state court of appeals? Or does the judge come back and make his own financial decision on damages? I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. I can only surmise.
Lawyers' line is open. As anybody who's got a law degree from Georgetown University, feel free to jump on board. Kickoff rule. We talked about this months ago, and I watched closely the Chicago Bears, Houston Texans Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio, and I looked at the formations and said, holy cow, does this look strange? Is this weird? And I don't think the coaches have a handle yet on how this is actually going to play out. They kick off from the 35-yard line, but everybody lines up at the other guy's 40. And we're talking about the gunners going down the field. They all line up, but they're stationary. The blockers on the kick return unit line up at their own 35. So you got this whole mass at the 35 of my guy returning kicks, and all your guys covering the kicks are at the 40. But nobody can move until the ball is fielded by the guy back on the goal line or the 10-yard line or whatever. And the minute the ball is fielded, then they have 5 yards. They take off and they block. It's the strangest looking thing I've ever seen. So they had 8 kickoffs in the Bears-Houston Texans game. 7 of them were returned an average of 26 yards per kick return. So that is better than the league average last year. There was only 1 touchback on the whole thing. But already we can see teams fudging and cheating, and there were penalty flags on some of the kickoffs where the kick cover team coming down, they were moving their personnel, not down the field, but moving them. You're not supposed to move. You're supposed to be stationary. And the blocking, instead of having all your blockers up front at the 35, teams were dropping their blockers back with the return man right behind them. still that have extra blockers there. And that's a violation of the rule too, because you're supposed to have all your guys at the 40-yard going in and the 35-yard coming out to block. You're not supposed to have up blockers by your kick return guys. So this, I don't know if they've created a monster. I understand what they're trying to do to make the game much safer because of the violence of the collisions and concussions and all that. This is so out of sync and so strange to watch. We watch exhibition games start this week. I mean, around the league, there'll be games all over TV. You watch it and tell me if you understand what the hell's going on, because I don't think the coaches do.
Well, there's multiple parts to this, because there's obviously how they line up and where the blockers are, and that's kind of weird, looks different. The kicker's by himself right down on the other end of the field. But the thing that I've always wondered about is, even with the old kickoff rules, the kickers can easily put it into the end zone for a touchback, right? And so, but now a lot of times they try to make it land around, the goal line or the 1 yard line, so they have a chance to
pin guys back, tackle them and stop them.
So they don't get to at least the 25, or maybe they can stick them at the 15 or something. But have they ever thought about moving the kicker even further back? Because if they can kick it into the end zone anytime, it just seems like it's got a lot of weird incentives.
Well, the feel is there's a dynamic to kickoff returns. You didn't follow Devin Hester, Chicago Bears, 19 touchdowns on kickoff and punt returns. They want that electricity as part of the game, but they're trying to take the danger and the collisions, the violent collisions, out of the game, which is why the guys going downfield start at the 40 and the blockers are just 5 yards away from them at the 35. So they're trying to stop that and give those guys more lanes to be able to explode and run up. So,
well, once they get through that initial wave of blockers, there's probably no one on defense behind them.
The kicker.
Except the kicker, exactly.
But can you get through that traffic jam of bodies?
Right.
And then you're going to see special teams coaches are going to rig this where not everybody is going to wind up going down at the 40-yard line and going in. They'll drop guys back. That'll kind of be back there to tackle. Again, it's all to try to stop the horrors of real high-speed collisions. And that's become a real problem in the NFL. But I guarantee you this weekend, you watch NFL games, Chargers and Rams open preseason, you're going to look at that and say, what the hell is that? That's really strange. Next topic. Chargers had a joint workout, Rams. Chargers defense just beat the hell out of the Rams and Matthew Stafford. 3 interceptions, 2 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. Charger defense was blitzing Matthew Stafford. Now, everybody who's a Bolt fan, the 11 people in L.A. that are Charger fans, all excited. Well, let's understand the Rams did this without 3 of their top offensive linemen. And I was surprised Stafford was allowed to stay in there. Now, it was not full-duty tackling nor sacks, but he was under all kinds of pressure all the time. But the Chargers lost another player. They're already without Justin Herbert, and now Ladd McConkey goes down with a leg injury.
Oh, wow.
So that's a bit of an issue. Now, luckily, for Herbert, they've still got another good 4 weeks of training camp to get him back off this arch injury. So that's something to pay attention to. Miami, they gave Tua Tagovailoa phenomenal amount of money, $55 million a year amount of money on a contract extension a couple weeks ago. And then over the weekend, they gave Tyreek Hill an upgrade, 3 years, $90 million, most all of it guaranteed. So Tyreek rockets to $30 million per season. So that's a story there in Miami. San Francisco, keep an eye on this because the stories are flying as of noon today. The 49ers have changed their mind, and they're going to trade Brandon Ayuk. And they reopened talks over the weekend with Pittsburgh. The Steelers supposedly are closing in on a deal. It might involve a first-round draft pick, or it might involve one of the Pittsburgh's key defensive players. But evidently, San Francisco's just kind of reached the emotional finish line with Brandon Ayuk. Love me not. I understand economics 101. Why aren't you taking care of me? It goes on and on and on. I would have thought at the end of the day they would have traded Deebo Samuel, but maybe, and Samuel's got a big money contract, but it's a multi-year deal. But maybe Samuel is not viewed as dangerous as a wide receiver as Brandon Ayuk. This would really be out of character for Pittsburgh to take on that type of contract, because they would have to give Ayuk $25 million a year. Pittsburgh historically has never done that. Granted, Ben Roethlisberger was a superstar and they gave him mega money, But this would be really out of character for Pittsburgh to do it. But as of noon today, as we were getting ready to come on with this podcast, that is the story. And everybody wants their contract renegotiated. Hell, I want my contract renegotiated, John Riley. Trent Williams, Pro Bowl left tackle, San Francisco, still out of camp. He's being fined $50,000 a day. He doesn't care. Trent Williams has got 3 years left on his contract that currently pays him $21 million per season. He wants that ripped up. He wants to be taken care of. He wants state-of-the-art money because everybody around him has gotten state-of-the-art money. And now the offensive linemen are making $30 million a year. But he's got 3 years left on his contract. I don't know, these general managers, to me, it's almost like they're caving in. Rams, Sean McVay, he's had 2 really good seasons. It was supposed to be rebuild. 2 good seasons without any major injuries. He's lost 6 players in a week. Whoa. He just lost Paku Nakua, the wide receiver with a bruised knee, got hurt in this controlled workout with the Chargers. He's lost 3 starting offensive linemen. He's lost his 2 of his top 3 cornerbacks, and now he's lost Puka Nakua. So Rams are kind of reeling a little bit. You want to comment on the Chargers, Miami, San Fran, and L.A.?
Well, for the Niners, that's the right move to trade Brandon Ayuk, because if you've got a guy on your team that just doesn't want to be there, I mean, that's a lot of negative energy. And if they can get a first-round pick, great. But if he goes to Pittsburgh, yeah, they're going to have to pay. I mean, that's the going rate. I mean, if Tyreek Hill's making $30 million, then Ayuk probably deserves 25.
Exactly. Last topic. Watch the Hall of Fame ceremonies in Canton. I love the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You ever been there?
No.
You got to get out of the house more.
Yeah,
you know
I think so.
Okay. You need to go there. You need to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Oh, I've been
there.
Be
in Akron, Canton. Okay, well, then you understand it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it was really cool. You know, and I thought it was so weird. Here's Devin Hester, Chicago Bears, 19 touchdowns as a return man that nobody ever did anything like that. He gets honored. He goes into the Hall of Fame. And we saw 2 great pass rushers, the monster of a man that was Julius Peppers from Carolina Panthers, and the overachiever, undersized pass rusher in Dwight Feeney at Indianapolis. They both went in. Andre Johnson, great wide receiver, 70 touchdowns, Houston Texans went in. So we listened to all the fabulous speeches. And then the final entrant. And it just kind of put a dagger in my heart because it's a prime example of the other side of the National Football League. I'm going to talk about the games and the contracts and the Super Bowl and the star players and big touchdown passes. Steve McMichael in a wheelchair. Legendary defensive tackle, the Mike Ditka era. Da Bears. He's dying of ALS. And he's a shell of a man now. And they took a picture. It was just really, I don't know if it struck me wrong, but it was just really weird. Here was McMichael with his family, and he's just emaciated. And he's not going to live very much longer. He's been in and out of the hospital since they called him and said, you're going to the Hall of Fame. And here's this man who's so frail, surrounded by all these legendary Bears wearing their gold Hall of Fame jackets. And I just thought to myself, that's the dichotomy of the NFL, how great it can be. But look at the damage the NFL can do. It was just kind of took the fun out of the ceremony because we were also dealing with that piece of Steve McMichael reality. And John Riley says,
well, that's heavy.
Yeah, real heavy.
Yeah, that is. And you're right. I mean, there's just a lot of, people that are getting CTE and all kinds of other injuries that have just destroyed their lives. But, it's kind of cool the way that the existing Hall of Famers are like their own little mini fraternity.
Sure.
And they support their guys. But what's weird to me is as I've gotten older, there's a lot of guys that are younger than me that are going into the Hall of Fame, or guys from a more recent era. Sometimes it's hard for me to compute,
It is. It's weird for me because as a longtime voice in the Chargers and the Seahawks, I broadcast games and a lot of these guys played it, and they were really great players.
Yeah.
And you think, God, are they that old? They've been retired that long? Am I that old?
We're all that old.
Yeah, very much so. So Hall of Fame. So listen, if you've got an opinion, did you watch the Hall of Fame speeches, the induction ceremony? Did it strike you with the happiness we saw with Devin Hester and his exuberance and all these other guys and saying thank you for the people that influenced them? And then we have to watch and observe and understand this is the other side of the National Football League that hardly anybody ever wants to talk nor touch nor see, the Steve McMichael sad story. So It's quite a story.